I really love Charlie Astro. Let me just say, I love that man. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you can see from the title, today I will be doing the top 10 books I read in 2022. As of now, I read 39 books. My goal was 50, but then I changed it to 30 and I passed it. Well, yeah, congratulations to me. The first book is actually 3 different books. So this is the first 3 books. They're in the same trilogy, the Inheritance Games trilogy. I fell in love with this series. I love it from the bottom of my heart. It's the best thing that ever happened to me this year, like to read. I am so happy that I read these books. I saw the Inheritance Games talked about a lot on Book Talk and I was like, you know what, I should read it. So basically the Inheritance Games is about a girl named Avery and she is 17 and one day she finds out she's in the will of like the richest man in Texas and he left everything to her. He has 4 grandsons, the Hawthorne brothers, who you're gonna fall in love with, by the way. Nash, Grayson, Jameson, and Xander. And she basically has to solve all the riddles the grandfather left as to why she inherited his fortune. And there's a lot of, you know, people who want the fortune in the family. And so she has to deal with all of that. I rated this 5 stars. I rated, I think, all of them 5 stars. Loved this book so much. It's YA, there's romance, there's a love triangle. It's just so good. And if you like mystery and riddles, totally should read this because there is a lot. The second book is my next book and I also rated this one 5 stars. I would say, I feel like this one is my favorite. I don't know, I love all of them, but I feel like this one is my favorite. In this book, the story continues and I read these in April, I believe. And then the third one came out in August and that's the final gambit. And I read this one and I loved it. Pretty much, I don't know how people are gonna take this. This is exactly what I would have wanted to happen, except for one thing. That's a spoiler, so I'm not gonna talk about it. There is one thing that upset me, but other than that, this book, like the roller coaster it had me on, I would say, and I got it signed. You see it says for Zoe, and then Jennifer Lynn Barnes signed it. My sister bought it for me. I was like, Jennifer Lynn Barnes is signing the books. And then my sister was like, okay. And I was like, can you please get it for me? Yeah, so cool. My first 3 books on my list are the Inheritance Games trilogy by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. Totally should check it out. If you want to know my deeper thoughts on these books, check out my Goodreads. I'm gonna link it below. I have reviews for, I think every book I read in 2022 I probably left a review on, so totally check it out. Next on my list is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. It's my first time reading an Emily Henry book. I know she has 2 other books out that are really popular, Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation. I actually have Beach Read. I see it on my shelf right now. Have not read it yet, but I have it and I'm gonna read that. This book, I'm not saying I hated romance because I've never been like the rom-com girly for books. I love rom-com movies, but I never like was into the rom-com books until I read this. Then I was like, you know what? Love that. This book is about Nora and she is an editor and she goes to a small town with her sister Libby for a vacation and her like rival Charlie, he shows up there and they have an interesting relationship. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but you should totally read this book if you love, you know, enemies to lovers. I guess you could say friends to lovers. No, it's more enemies to lovers and like rivals to lovers. And I enjoyed this book so much. It made me like into like a rom-com girly. I was like, oh my gosh, I love this so much. It was really good. And I have a book review up for this book. I'll link it up here if you want to see my full thoughts on it. But yeah, Book Lovers was so good and I really enjoyed Emily Henry's writing. I don't know, her writing was so good and I flew through this. Like, it was really easy to read and I just fell in love with both Nora and Charlie. I felt like I could relate to both of them in different ways. I really love Charlie. I really love Charlie Astro. Let me just say, I love that man. Let me tell you, well, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to spoil it. Let me just say, that man has a capsule wardrobe and if that means anything to you, moving on, my next 5-star read is, drumroll please, Legend by Marie Lu. I love this book. And I think, are there 4 books or 3 books? I think there's 4 books. I've only read the first one because I really jump around a lot. But I love this book. When I finished this book, I felt satisfied, even though it's like like it's more, there's more in the series. I felt satisfied. This is about this boy, his name is Day, and there's a girl named June, and they live in a dystopian society. I love dystopian societies. And basically Day is a criminal. He's like the most wanted criminal in their society, and June has to find him. She basically, I don't want to spoil it, but basically June's brother gets killed and she has to find out who did it. She meets Day along the way and he's helping her figure out who did it, and they have to basically, like, I don't know, I don't want to spoil it for you guys. Anyway, just know it's really, really good. The characters are so lovable. I feel like it was easy to read. One complaint people have is about the font. I read it online and then bought it, so I can't really complain about the font. But like, I really love this book. Like, it was all around 5 stars for me, and I don't easily just like give 5 stars out to books. So Legend was one of the best books I read this year. Can't wait to read the rest of it. I love this book, man. Next book on my list, Summer of Broken Rules by K.L. Walther. I loved this book. Basically, it's about a girl and her cousin is getting married in Martha's Vineyard. And her family, they like spend summers there, and it's a really like close-knit family. But her sister unfortunately passed away, so she hasn't been back for a while, but she goes back. Every year her family plays this game with water guns where you gotta try to get people out. I am blanking on what it's called. Like Assassin? Yeah, Assassin. They play Assassin every summer, and this summer she's back and she's playing it. She's got a love interest from the other side of the wedding party, and that is all I will say. You should totally check it out. It's a great summer vibe. I read it in the summer, but if you want to read it any time of the year, totally go for it. If you like strangers to friends to lovers, yeah. This book, I loved it, except there's a time where there was too much tension for me and I was like stressed out, because that tends to happen to me with books. But then, you know, it resolved itself. I loved the main character's character development in this. One thing I love about books is like character development. Like, I hate characters who just like, they don't change and they don't see like anything wrong with themselves and they kind of just stay flat. But in this book, the character development, chef's kiss. I liked seeing, her name is Meredith. I liked seeing Meredith progress over the book, and just, I don't know, it was very easy too, and it's like chunked into like the days of the week because she's there for the wedding for a week. So I love books that have like a structure like that, so this was so good. I think, did I rate it 5 stars or like 4 point something? I don't know, because on Goodreads you can't do halves, so in my mind I'm like, oh, this is a 4.8 or something, and then on Goodreads I probably put a 4, not a 5, but I probably gave this 4 or 5 stars. I don't know what I gave it, but this book, oh, this book was so good. Loved this book. The next book I want to talk to you guys about is called The Bromance Book Club, and this book was so funny. Basically, it's about these Major League Baseball players, and the main guy, totally forgot his name. Let me see if it's on Goodreads. Basically, the main guy, him and his wife are like on the brink of divorce, but his buddies on the football team, the baseball team, they're like, bro, you should read romance novels so you can like win her back. The concept was great. I don't very often read books with like male lead characters, so I was very happy about that. It was very interesting, entertaining. It's a part of a series. Have not read the rest, but at the library I have the next one on hold. Also, I often read YA, so this book was about adults, so that was also interesting. The next book, Everything by Nicola Yoon. I watched a movie for Everything years ago when it came out, and I liked it, and I never got around to reading it. So I read the book, which I had watched a movie for, and I loved it so much. I love reading books because you go into more detail, but I also felt like it was very similar to the movie. I feel like that book to movie adaptation, pretty good. Like, it felt similar, and I liked getting to see the main character's story. I think I actually listened to this. Yeah, I listened to this as an audiobook. I actually think I wrote a review for that one in my journal. I'm gonna look and see because I don't have it with me. See, I wrote a review for it in my book journal, so let's just see what I said. I gave it a 4.5. I enjoyed the writing and the storytelling. That's what I said. I'm very into YA contemporaries, and I think this author also wrote The Sun Is Also a Star, which I want to read, and she also wrote Instructions for Dancing. So those are 2 books that I really want to read. Next, To All the Boys I've Loved Before. I watched the movie and loved it, but then I read the book, watched the movie again, and the movie was like, it's good as its own thing, but they should not call it an adaptation of this because they changed so many things. I obviously know you can't have everything, but I don't know. Anyways, I loved this book. Laura Jean is my homegirl. Me and Laura Jean, we're like this. She is just like me for real. I like related to her. I want to be her best friend. I loved Kitty as a little sister. I feel like Kitty represented us little sisters so well. Didn't really like Margot that much, but I totally understand, like, as the eldest, she had to take on so much responsibility, but she's just a little, like, if she was my sister, I'd be annoyed. Anyways, I loved this book. I loved getting to see the relationship between Peter and Laura Jean. I just can't wait. Well, I started reading the second book already, but like, I can't wait to see them actually together, because like the fake dating was cute, so like imagine them really dating. This book went into so much more detail than the movie, which obviously we know is going to happen, but I loved this book and I read it, like I flew through this book as well. Jenny Han has some really good quotes, and I'm glad I read this because I'm not gonna do like my least favorite books of the year, but I did read The Summer I Turned Pretty this year and I did not like it that much. It was very boring to me, and so I'm glad Jenny Han had her redemption in the last act of 2022 for me. This book was so good. Cannot wait to finish the rest of the trilogy. In love with this world and the characters. I think I gave this one 5. I think I gave this one like 4.8 on Goodreads. I can't do that, but in my book journal, well, it's just a regular journal, in my journal I gave it a 4.8. so yeah, we are on the final book now, guys. The final book is All the Bright Places. If you watched it on Netflix in 2020 when it came out like I did, that is a really heart-wrenching story, and reading it was even more heart-wrenching. Theodore Finch and Violet Markey, my loves. I think that they were great characters. I loved getting to see their story. I'm looking for my Goodreads review right now. I just read it. I think I gave this 4.8 stars as well. I said, I enjoyed reading this book. I feel like so many things happened, but it was all necessary for the main character's development. I found myself able to relate to both Violet and Finch in different ways as well. I think that they were cute together, however, I did not feel the romance between them 100% all the time. I'm glad to have read this novel after watching the movie a couple of years ago. Like I said, I loved watching like their development, but I didn't always feel the romance. Like, I think they would have been okay as friends, but it was also nice. Also, Finch calls her ultraviolet remarkable, and that is the cutest thing ever. There were so many ups and downs in this book, and like I knew it was gonna happen because I watched it, but then like I feel like since the movie can't do everything, it was like more painful because we saw more of like their thoughts and stuff, and then like after, I don't want to spoil it, but that book was so good. So yeah, out of the 39 books I read this year, these were my top 10. I'm reading a lot right now, and it's December 30th, so this is probably it. These are the books that made me the happiest this year. These are the books that set the bar so high for other books, and I cannot wait for next year. So if you want to check out what I read this year, or any of my reviews, or any books I read in other years, like I said, my Goodreads is linked down below, and I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that you have a happy and healthy new year. See you next time. This is